Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism and I'd like to invite you to another conversation about your Kundalini Awakening experience. And I'm going to go ahead and I want to do something a little different than what I typically do on this radio show. I would like to read something to you here and welcome everybody to the program today. I would like to read a little thing that was written for a very dear friend of ours. And here it goes. I would like to thank Santara Kundalini, also known as Amelia, for the blessings and work and assistance and service that she provides all of the communities, all of the groups, including this radio program. So I would like to thank our own Santara Kundalini, also known as Amelia O'Connor, for the blessings and work, assistance, and service that she provides. From the radio show, she's a co-host, and she also has many, many different writings, and she has done many Skypes, and she gives to those in need. She does these things for the benefit of others. And I want to honor and thank her for this commitment, this demonstrated commitment of love and service that she provides for so many and has provided for so many for so long. Thank you, Santara Kundalini. Thank you, Amelia O'Connor. Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and just jump in like I usually do. And here we go. I want everybody listening to realize that within the Kundalini awakened or activated equation, we are no longer responsible completely for ourselves. In many ways, now, with the Kundalini, we are responsible to the Kundalini. We are, in actuality, we are like slaves to the Kundalini, slaves to the Shakti. And this is a benevolent slavery. It's a very beautiful slavery, but it's still, you do not get to have control over your destiny within the Kundalini. Kundalini will control your destiny. Kundalini will control your appetites, be it food, be it entertainment, be it romance, be it sexual, be it whatever your appetites are. Kundalini will begin to control this, and I will suggest that you surrender to that control. We are slaves to the Kundalini. We are slaves to the Sacred Mother. And I know that's putting it in a way that is brutal for some people, because everybody equates slavery to what was done to black people during the right leading up to the Civil War. But if you've done your research on slaves, it's the Irish people that were the very first slaves coming to the New World, not the Africans. It was the Irish that were shipped off to Barbados and to these Caribbean islands where they wanted to grow a bunch of sugarcane, and it was the Irish that were forced to be slaves to the British there. And so, but I'm not talking about that kind of slavery, and yet I am. I'm talking about the kind of slavery that is predicated more upon your spiritual evolution, the grace that you are, the level of of service and the level of obedience that you must provide for the Kundalini within you is a very, 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 very important aspect of the process that's working its way through you. You need to understand this. You need to really begin to get an idea that you are not in charge of the Kundalini. You don't get to do a certain amount of things like some of the martial artists, some of the Taoists. They like to think that they can control the Kundalini, and so what they'll do is, over time they have figured out certain things, certain techniques that can help modulate the flow of the energy through the body. So, for instance, tongue up is a Taoist thing, and a few of the other things have a Taoist signature to them. And this is very important for you to understand, because even though some of the Taoist techniques are good, for the Kundalini and support the flow within, they have other techniques such as the microcosmic orbit or the macrocosmic orbit that really is a tool of the ego. It's a tool of the ego, and it's designed to in some way affect the Kundalini as it's rising through the different chakras up the spinal column. And this is more of a control vector that the ego is insisting on, rather than a control vector that the Kundalini itself is working on towards you. So like tongue up behind the upper front teeth, well, that is connecting specific circuitry, and that is very, very, very powerful. That is very, very good, and this is something that, of course, you would want to work on within the understandings that this is aiding and abetting the Kundalini within you. But like the circulation of light or the macrocosmic orbit or the microcosmic orbit, you don't need to do any of those things. The most important thing you need to do is surrender the authority of your body, mind, soul, emotions to the Kundalini. And so this is where the whole idea of the slave comes into the process, because when you surrender to the degree that I'm talking about, you literally are waiting for your next command. You literally are waiting to be given an understanding of what you need to do next, and it will come to you without much of a wait from the Kundalini. She will tell you what it is that she wants you to do. She will tell you, she will help you, she will even give you ideas on how to do what it is she wants you to do. And before I forget, I want to apologize for last week's show, because Centaura came on afterwards and said, "Oh my God, you're rocking in that chair. The clicking noise was worse than the old chair." So I got beat up over that. It was horrible. It was a mess. I had to soak up all the blood out of the sink. It was just really rough after Centaura worked me over on that one. But yeah. So I won't be clicking. I won't be rocking the chair today. I made a promise. So I have it tilted back now. So yes, so this level of surrender to the Kundalini is a lot different than, say, how you'd surrender to an enemy to some degree. I mean, if you were, like, say, in the Civil War, and it was the blue coats versus the gray coats, and let's just say that the blue coat knocked the gray coat down and then held a sword at his neck. Okay, that's a certain kind of surrender. So, of course, the gray coat surrenders, right? But in this case, the blue coat doesn't stab the person through the throat. But the gray coat does surrender. To some degree, it is correct. Your life literally is belonging to the Kundalini. And so, literally, to some degree, that throat is indeed being exposed to that sword. And yet, the Kundalini has such a benevolent, loving interaction with you that sometimes it's hard for a person to say surrender themselves when they're equating surrendering anything as being beaten up by an enemy. I don't want you to see it like that. I don't want you to think of Kundalini as your enemy. Your Kundalini is like your mother. She's your divine mother, and she's the one that is gestating you through the activation process into the awakened process and beyond. And so this is the kind of, you surrender when you're a baby and your diaper needs to be changed. Well, you surrender this to your mother or your father or Sacred Father. You surrender this aspect of yourself. And so you're completely at the mercy of Sacred Mother and Sacred Father, and you're allowing them to change your diaper. It's the same thing with the Kundalini, except she takes, she'll take, because, we're not little infants to a large degree. I mean, we've been on this planet for a little bit of time, and we've been allowed to carry certain levels of ego addiction upon us and within us, and that addiction is going to want to express itself. And this is where she can get a bit tough on us as we try to express, like, say, ego controls over something that is not going to be controlled by the ego, such as Kundalini. Well, those two forces coming together, one's going to win and one's going to lose. And I'll tell you what, your ego's not going to win. Your Kundalini's going to win. But she'll win in a certain way that allows you to understand that you're not competing for control. You don't even have the ability to compete for control over the Kundalini in your body. That's not part of the equation for the human being. Once that Kundalini has activated or awakened, that is its supremacy within you. And this is, of course, where you begin your surrendering. So as you understand your surrendering, understand that you're not, nobody's holding a sword to your throat. What happens? Somebody is holding a clean, fresh diaper in her hand and trying to put that on you. So just to let you know from that. And I see that C.L. Morgan and Mary Jean and Phil Karuba and guest 1654 have joined us on the chat room, and I'd like to say hello to all of you there. Thank you for joining us today. And I also see that Joey and Edie G and Rosemary Brooke are on the line listening on their telephones. And I'd like to welcome anybody and everybody who's listening on their smartphone or their not-so-smartphone or their computer or any other device that they can listen to this program. I'd like to welcome you to the program, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. And just to recap a little bit for folks that have just joined us, talking right now about how we are slaves to the Kundalini. We are slaves to Shakti. We are like little babies in the arms of our Sacred Mother, and even though, we would be like that 2-year-old that's just learning how to say no. We want to say no to everything that Sacred Mother wants to do, and yet, she's not going to allow that. Just like any of our mothers would not have allowed that. Those of you that are mothers, and let me have Amelia come online. Come online there, Miss Amelia. There we go, putting her in the red. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Have you ever changed a diaper on an unwilling child?
6 times on my own.
Only 6 times, huh? Wow.
Well, I started on the ground.
And you know how you just kind of push the feet to the side, or you just take both the little feet in one hand and then start doing the cleanup, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, as a mom, you know what the child or the baby is going to do. It kicks. it resists.
That's right.
And it does its own thing, and you know that this has to be done, and you proceed with patience, but you just proceed with what needs to be done. You grab the two legs, you lift the bum, you get the cleaner, you clean, you put on the diaper because it has to be done. You know that the child doesn't understand. You know that the child is uncomfortable. You understand that, but it doesn't change how you approach it. It still needs to be done.
And that's exactly the approach.
Because I know better.
That's exactly the approach that the Sacred Mother takes with us. So I'm going to put you back in the blue. Thank you for explaining that, Amelia.
Okay.
So you see, ladies and gentlemen, the way Amelia so adroitly explained that from obvious years of experience, this is the same thing that the Kundalini Shakti Mother will do with us. You know, she knows exactly how we're going to respond. She knows we're going to resist, and yet she cleans us up anyway. And by cleaning us up, she controls our diet. She controls our self-correction. She controls our judgments. She controls our thinking. She controls our emotions. She controls what tests she's going to put us through that day or that night in order to further our evolutionary process within her grace, within the grace of the Kundalini Sacred Mother. And so we are totally dependent and surrendered upon her. And I need you to really kind of get that in your head. And I know a lot of authors on the internet are saying, well, this is what you do to kind of control the arising of the Kundalini, or, you know, this is what I do and what I've done, or is it, oh, ascension symptoms. Well, this is what you do. You don't do any of those things. You just surrender to the cleaning of the Sacred Mother upon you. And this cleaning can last a while too. This cleaning isn't as quick as a diaper being changed. This cleaning is changing the way you respond to life, the way you respond to people in your life, the way you respond to your husband, to your brother, to your uncle, to your grandfather, to your brother, to your cousin, to your nephew, the way you respond to your aunt, your grandmother, your mother, your sister, your cousin, your niece. It's a way that you respond to the Kundalini, is that surrendered way. And I see you're back on the red there, Centaur. Did you want to say something else?
I have no idea why that happened. I did nothing. Going back into the Chrism.
That's going to be one of those mystery blog talk radio programs, I'm sure. Anyway, so you surrender to the behavior modifications that she's giving you. You surrender to the modifications that she's giving you in relationship with your lover, with your wife, with your husband. You surrender to the levels of control that she wants to have over whether or not you have a job. If she doesn't want you to have a job, my friends, there is nothing in the world you can do to get a job. It won't work. You'll be interviewing for, a biology position in the National Forestry Service, and they'll ask you, what kind of a tree that is, and you'll say something like, towels. Yep, that's right. You'll say towels, like a beach towel. And they'll look at you, and they'll kind of shake their head and smile at you and just say, well, thank you. Thank you for coming in and interviewing with us. We'll give you a call. So if she doesn't want you to have work, my friends, you're not going to have work. Obviously, there's something more important for you to do that she wants you to do. And so it's very important that you understand that you cannot fight and win with the Kundalini. You cannot resist and win with the Kundalini. The best way to approach the Kundalini is through complete surrender, surrender to the Sacred Mother. Now, this changes our ideologies about life. This changes and in many ways expands the level of information you have about life, because all of a sudden you're taking in consideration how a dragonfly feels. You're looking at turtles swimming in the water in a lake or a pond, and you're realizing that turtles have feelings too. You're realizing that everything in life, from the lily pad on the pond to the frog sitting on it to the insect that the frog just tucked inside itself for its lunch, everything feels, everything has consciousness. It's just not going to be the same as human consciousness. But everything is smart on this world. It's just not the same level or degree of smartness that humanity has. And humanity's level of smartness is not the same level of smartness or intelligence that the Kundalini has. And so just the same way that a dog loves us and surrenders to us and gives us love, 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 and we give the dog love, 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 and food, 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 and exercise and petting and community and happiness and joy, so does the Kundalini give that to us without any kind of a judgment. Without any kind of a judgment going, oh, I got to do it just the way he does a dog. Okay, that's not how it works. Kundalini has love and respect for all life. She understands the consciousness, the patterns of communication, the patterns of interconnectedness that all consciousness has. And all life is a form of consciousness. Different frequencies of consciousness, but consciousness the same. She happens to know about all of these things because she took part in creating all of these things, and therefore that knowledge is starting to be given to you. And as you begin to surrender to that knowledge, and as you begin to internalize these teachings that the Kundalini is giving to you, so are your parameters of expression expanded. The spectrum that you have, if maybe the human spectrum for you is an inch wide, well, now it's a couple miles wide. That's kind of the comparison between Kundalini information and mundane life information. Kundalini information is extremely wide, extremely varied, and extremely encompassing of everything around you and upon you and within you. Mundane life, not so much. It's mundane life is more about survival, competition. The very basic jungle laws are what the mundane understandings are basically about. How to compete, how to get enough for you and your family, how to be clothed and sheltered, and in that type of a scenario, that is where the mundane teachings are. With Kundalini, the teachings of Kundalini are extremely expanded. Very important for people to understand that. Okay. Now, as you continue your surrender to the Sacred Mother, she's going to have you do things that are just not comfortable for you. She's going to have you step outside of the comfort margins that society has placed for you to pay attention to. All of a sudden, maybe you're not so interested in being the money-grubbing, greedy person that you've been in the past. Maybe all of a sudden she's pushing you towards great levels of giving to others, great levels of service for others, selfless service for others, service for others that you're not charging them for. You're just giving that service. All of a sudden, from the greedy, money-grubbing Scrooge that you may have once been, is the awakened Scrooge that is happening. Now you just want to give love to everybody. Now you just want to give help and assistance and money and food and lodging and clothing, and begin to help people take care of themselves in these ways. This is common with the Kundalini. Very common. All of a sudden, you may just want to write what the Kundalini wants to write through you. And I see that Santara has once again not moved herself into the red, but I'll move her right back into the blue because evidently Blog Talk wants me to shut up and wants her to... Okay. All right. It just bumped her off, it looks like. Anyway, so... yeah, you want to really, really, really begin to listen to what the Kundalini is telling you. I'm going to put Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez on right here. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hello, Chrism.
How are you, my dear?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
Thousands of millions of people are listening to you right now. Are you ready?
No.
How do you feel about what I'm saying? What is LaRonda? What is your Kundalini telling you?
Oh, she's just been, it's odd but not odd that what she's been on me about over the last, I'd say, week and a half or so is pretty much exactly what you've been saying. And it's all had to do with my level, what I thought was my level of patience and tolerance on a mundane level where, you know, you just get impatient waiting in lines or driving in traffic or waiting for the subway or whatever. And lately for me, it's been driving back and forth from town to town, taking my daughter to and from dance, going to and from work, standing in lines, waiting at the doctor, all these things. And the level of surrender that she's asking of me, she is telling me from an ego refinement, mundane level, she's saying, that's all good, self-correcting, all this stuff that you're busying yourself with trying to do. I want you to stop that and pay more attention to the deeper level of what is actually being done through you. In other words, when you were saying, like, we're slaves to the Kundalini, we're owned by her, that's what she's basically telling me is you can be doing all that, thinking, mental, or being irritated, noticing you're irritated by what the person is saying behind you in line or pushing you, whatever, and you're correcting, you're being kind. That's irrelevant, she's telling me, because on a deeper level, she wants me to just stop, be in the here and now, be in the present moment, and realize that there are things on other levels that the divine is doing through you that you are just completely unaware of. And if you would just stop and be the observer, be in the present moment, but it's not even so important that you know what is happening, whether a healing is taking place, whether some kind of, working on someone's entities or sending them healing, or the whole, just the radiance coming out into the whole place where you're at, or the car that you're passing, or the animal that just went by. Whatever's happening on a more divine level is what she wants me to stop and just realize that what I think is going on is not necessarily what is actually going on all these other levels. And so, in other words, not to give so much importance to the mundane.
This is so true. This is really true, and I love the way you expanded on that topic, towards the way she expands on that topic. It's so true. When you have the Kundalini awakened or activated within you, work is being done on the environment around you that you have no clue about, and some of it you're just not even ready to understand how that is taking place. And it's not just one thing at a time either. It's like a fountain is a geyser is going out the top of your head, and it's falling down around you with such a wide radiance circle, and yet it's falling down everywhere around you. It's falling down on the people, on the plants, on the soil. It's falling on consciousness inside of the atmosphere that science hasn't even discovered yet. It's working its way all around you, and yet, because we're so blinded in so many different ways that we don't see it yet because we're not willing to expand our understandings of the world that far yet. And I think that it's certainly for you, Elizabeth, she is asking you to expand your recognition of what is going on around you. Is that right?
Yes, so much.
So, yeah, I think that, God, this is great. That's great. And I'm going to go ahead and put you in the blue. That was wonderful, Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there you have it, folks. That's Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, and she really, really picked up on what we're talking about here. And it's such a strong message from her. And I encourage everybody who visits us on Facebook at Kundalini Awakening ! Or Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, Kundalini People, Kundalini Healing, Kundalini Awakening Systems 1. These are all Facebook groups, and I would encourage everybody to read Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez posts on those groups. They're very, very informative and very, very educational for people that have the Kundalini. So as you're standing in line at the doctor's office, as you're standing in line at the grocery store, as you're standing in line to maybe just go to the bathroom, expand your awareness. Feel the Kundalini expand your awareness for you. Feel her begin to push you in the direction of expansion rather than in the direction of contraction. Contraction is typically in this kind of a context would be more of a fear response, whereas expansion would be more of a surrender response. And so really, really, really look to do that as best you can inside of the expansion of the Kundalini upon you. It's very important that you do not block yourself. Now, some of you will. Some of you will block yourself because you're not as comfortable as you would like to be in expanding to the depth, the degree, and the greatness that the Kundalini is pushing you towards. And it will also contradict a lot of what science says is real, what science says is true, what science says is a fact or isn't a fact. Well, within the expansion of the Kundalini, science is going to take a lot of hits because science is a very, very, very restricted ideology. It's extremely restricted. It is basically you're living from the scientific method. That's it. That is it. That's all you get. And it's a very, very, very small pinhole of a view of the multiverse that is exceptionally wide and exceptionally varied and doesn't necessarily adhere to the scientific principles. And so you'll have this competition going on within you. On the one hand, you'll have science. It's like, okay, I'm working with this computer. This computer is a scientific instrument. It was developed upon scientific methodologies. I'm driving my car. Same thing with the car. I'm using the microwave, which you should never use. I'm going into the refrigerator. All these different things, and it's all science-based when we're talking from a Western technological civilization standpoint. Whereas if you go into the primitive and you go into the wilderness, you strip off the clothes and you're walking in the wilderness as nature made you. Well, you're not looking at science so much then. Now you're looking at predation. Now you're looking at survival. Now you're looking at, and if you have the Kundalini, you're you're looking at levels of confidence and competency, and you're feeling the natural vibration reach up through the soles of your feet, up your legs, and into your spinal column and into your spinal cord, and your chakras are feeling the Kundalini climb up them, the inner Jacob's ladder of the chakras, and you're really capitalizing on the freedom and the expansiveness of being natural in nature that can provide, rather than basically the fear and the competition that one has inside of society, and one can have inside of the natural environment as well, rather than having that kind of competition or struggle. One gives themselves to the Kundalini, and wherever you are, whether you're in society, sitting on a subway, whether you're in Yosemite National Park in California, walking through a beautiful meadow, in both scenarios, you're given to the Kundalini, and the Kundalini gives herself and himself to you. You are never alone anymore. You never were, but now you are factually never alone, because the Kundalini is always awake within you. Kundalini does not sleep. Kundalini does not take a break. There is no downtime for the Kundalini. It's like Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez was saying, when you're standing in that line in the doctor's office or the gas station or petrol station, she is reaching into the environment around you. Sacred Father, he is reaching into the environment around you. Whether, as Elizabeth said, whether it's that animal that just passed by, or the car that just passed you, or the person that's paying for gas at the cash register, just 50 yards from you, Kundalini is reaching into all of these areas. And this is just on an external level. Let's talk about how far she's reaching into the internal aspects of who you are. She's changing your behaviors. She's changing your response platforms. She's changing how you resonate with life, whether it be social life or environmental life or work life or any of the different lives that we participate in as we live our life in Western world. She's reaching inside you, and she's changing you. She'll heat up your kidneys. She'll heat up your adrenals. She'll make it so that you can't sleep if you're drinking caffeine. Once you stop drinking the caffeine, lo and behold, you'll be able to sleep. And so she's teaching you how to begin to live the new life. She'll drive you to a teacher as well. I get plenty of people who are driven to the teachings that I give from their Kundalini first. They'll dream about Chrism and the Kundalini, and then we'll say, go to him, go find Chrism, go to him, read his writings, things of that nature. This happens all the time. This is not a one-time thing. This happens to people, and I want you to realize that you are being worked on from so many different directions. So many different directions as you just stand in line. You're being worked in the interior world, you are being worked in the exterior world. You're being worked in the interface between the exterior and the interior. Okay, major levels of change are being given to you, through you, by the Kundalini within you. Now I'm going to bring it on over to Her Holiness Centaura here. Do you have announcements you would like to make?
I do, Chrism, indeed, yes. I would like to give the website people can go to if they would like to make a donation. Chrism takes donations. He doesn't charge for anything that he does, but donations are always welcome. So you can go to chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and in the that page you will see a donate button, and just follow the instructions from there. And thank you very much for all previous donations that have been given, and for those of you who shall donate in the future. Thank you very much indeed. That's chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. That's it, Chrism. Thank you.
And thank you, Amelia. Yeah, I've been thinking about charging for Skype calls now. I've got to figure out a way to pay the energy bill here, and so and to fix my cars. My cars broke down, so I've been walking a lot of different places, and I want to be able to drive those cars again, or at least get rid of them. And so I'm thinking about charging for Skypes, and in addition to accepting donations. And as Amelia suggested, I'm very grateful for the people that have made those donations, and I'm very grateful for the people that have not made donations. I mean, at least if you're reading, if you're paying any attention to what is being said from me to you, then I thank you for that attention as well. And so anyway, I haven't decided on any kind of a cost, and if anybody has any suggestions on what else I can do to bring more funding in to what we're doing, then please reach out to me at kfireforall. That's KFIREFORALL at yahoo.com. You can watch any of the videos, about 340 or 38 videos out there. Go to chrism.kundalini on the YouTube network, and as I've already mentioned some of the groups on the Facebook network, but we also have Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo. We have Kundalini Awakening ! On Google Plus, if anybody is using the Google Plus network. So we are doing our best to reach into the population with this information. If anybody has suggestions about how else we can reach in, I would be more than that would be a wonderful thing for you to send my way, and I'll do my best to fill in those gaps. And so thank you, everybody, for listening for that aspect of the show. Now, as we continue with these levels of amazing surrender to the Kundalini, it's going to change the way you self-correct. It's going to change the way you look at life. It's going to change your judgments. All of a sudden, you won't have the same kind of judgments that you've had before. It's going to change the way you act in public. It's going to change the way you act on an interior level. Do you find yourself talking to yourself a lot? All of a sudden, you may just stop doing that. You may just stop doing that, or you may increase. Okay? You need to understand that because it is now awakened within you, you are living in a shared biological organism. It is shared between you, Sacred Mother, and Sacred Father. And if they allow entities to come in and to start challenging you, then it's going to be shared between those entities, you, Sacred Mother, Sacred Father. It'll become a somewhat crowded house at times. And I need you to understand that the only reason that you're being allowed to interact with those entities is to learn how to self-correct and to keep your focus and the focus of your thoughts just on the Kundalini or the Kundalini teacher that you have been assigned. It's very, very important for you to realize that, not to go into fear, not to think that you're being possessed. They'll try to possess you, but they won't succeed because you'll place your trust in the Kundalini alone, not in anything that is trying to take advantage of you or to try to take advantage of others through you. Remember the essential high moral, ethical code that the Kundalini will give to you, will force you to begin to live by. This high ethical code is a very, very real thing, and you will be compelled to follow the higher morals and the higher ethics in your life, which means you may not find yourself cussing as much, which means you may not find yourself being as argumentative or as competitive or having to be right or to win the argument as much. And eventually this may back out of you completely to be replaced by levels of forgiveness, to be replaced by levels of tolerance and levels of graciousness and levels of patience, levels of love for others that you may never have ever experienced before in your life. But now, because the Kundalini has come up, now you're having this experience. Very important for you to understand this and to begin to understand how you're being manipulated, how and why you're being changed. When you take the morality issue and the ethical issue, you're being changed towards a higher level of response. This is the divine momentum. You're not being pushed into an area where you're like all of a sudden regressing into a kill zone, where you're being forced to kill others, or just, to survive, or to manifest some level of comfort in your life. You have to take that level of comfort from another person. This is not that anymore. It is no longer the law of the jungle or the dog-eat-dog world. This is no longer that. This is the exalted world. This is the world of Kundalini awakening, Kundalini activation. This is the world of change that you have entered into and that has entered into you. I hope I'm getting that through to you, and I'm going to come on over to Rosemary here. Hi, Rosemary.
Hi there, Chrism.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm listening to what you're saying.
How do you feel about that? What's being said?
Well, the first thought that came to mind, it comes by way of an intuition, I think, when the communication's coming, and I don't sense that I have that as much as I would like, but I can look back in the last few days and see some things that I could see are what you were saying. One was, the first thing that came back, I missed an opportunity, I think, that I was guided to do, but I was not paying attention, was at a wake of a friend that I had been closer to, but not so much the recent years. And I didn't know a lot of people there, but I knew about them. And I knew her love for them. And I thought, driving home, shucks, I wish I would have said that, because I didn't have anything to say for myself. But that would have been a great acknowledgement and her presence and the love that she is. So that was one thing that I think I missed. The other thing that came to mind, I wanted to write it as a post, and I haven't done it yet, but on day 7, from the things that you say on the YouTube, I committed their simple little lines, and they struck me very strongly it was be silent, pray to the Kundalini Shakti within you, pray to God, be at peace with yourself and your process, be receptive, open, clear, and happy. And
Absolutely.
I was drawn to that degree, and I lived it on the 7th, and then on the next day I wanted to write it, which I said I haven't done yet. I wanted to write it, and it was all still with me the next day, and I saw that I'm going to make that day 8, call it day 8, to go to September 21st, and to live inside that. And the strongest message was just very touching, was be at peace with yourself. And that was an amazing gift to me, because that's where I get into trouble, is the harshness and criticism and all that stuff. So those gifts were given in the last week with just love and kindness.
And you're telling me you don't feel the intuition there?
Well, it seems stronger. I mean, clearer than that. I mean, like, intuition seems to me like it's a hunch, or I don't know. I just see that straight out given to me, but guess that would be the way, huh?
Yeah, that's the way she gives it, my dear, and I want to thank you. I'm I want to thank you for that, and I'm going to expand on that. Thank you, Rosemary.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah. So here's, what Rosemary says is really, really true. I mean, she gives it to you in a very strong way. It's way beyond a hunch. Although it can come from the same place that a hunch comes from. It just turns the hunch from something that maybe you have a choice with to something that maybe you don't have a choice with. And Rosemary doesn't give herself a lot of credit for having the intuition that I know she has, but it will give you that intuition. It will give you that ability to follow through on what it wants you to do, to follow through on the higher moral aspects of life. And Rosemary does this. I've seen her do this. She goes out of her way to live from a higher consciousness, and this will really begin to feed her process. It will really begin to feed her ascension platform into the Kundalini, and she may not, you got to understand, Rosemary is an ex-biology teacher, so she's been very, very, very much steeped into science, and so she has the expectation that A plus B equals C, and that is something that needs to change, and that's not something that the Kundalini will often change on a person. That is something that as you embrace the Kundalini and as you begin to understand the Kundalini, then that embracing and that understanding will change you. It will not necessarily be a direct feed from the Sacred Mother to you along those lines. Not to say that she can't do it. I'm certainly not limiting what the Sacred Mother can do, but what I am suggesting is that some things she'll just let you learn on your own. You're not always given a hand. Sometimes they just give you enough rope just to see what you'll do with it. They won't let you hang yourself, though. Okay, all right. And let's see, coming up to question time. So I'm bringing Her Holiness back online. There she is. And once again, Amelia, I do want to thank you for all the blessings and work and assistance and service that you've provided to all the community. From doing this radio show as a co-host to the writings and Skypes that you've given to so many people. And I just want to thank you again, for what you've been doing for so many and for so long.
Well, thank you, Chrism. It's an honor indeed. And without you, I would not be doing this because Kundalini guided me to you to be my teacher. And in that context, I am extremely grateful for all that you have given to me and that you give to everybody. And this show, while I provide it in terms of providing it, is here because of you and the teachings that you give through the Kundalini in you. So I just want to say thank you to Chrism very, very much for all that you do for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I suppose, so do you want me to start on some of my questions that I've
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
There's one question that came...
Wait. Before we start, I would like Alana Seeker and Mary Jean and Phil Cruvo and C.L. Morgan, if you have any questions, feel free to write them out. I will read them out loud. I will read them out loud, and I will give them an answer too. So just so you know, please continue, Santara. Thank you for letting me interrupt.
Okay. No worries. There was a question that came in from somebody to me privately, so I would like to read that question in its entirety, because it came in two parts. The person says, I feel physically my heart chakra is expanding in circular motions, but I don't feel unconditional love, though I am compassionate, and I was before Kundalini also. But because of this compassion, I suffer more, and I want to know more about unconditional love. I see the color green, and as I say, I feel these rotations, and I don't feel unconditional love. And recently, because of compassion, I was depressed for 2 days because of the stray dog I used to feel. And I really just want to feel unconditional love. So that's the first part about unconditional love and not feeling it, although the person is feeling an expansion in their heart. And the second part was, yeah.
Well, let me answer the first part first, okay?
Okay, sure.
If you're having an expectation, then you're setting in line a condition. And so if you're sitting there going, I want to feel unconditional love, the want part and the feeling part are two different separate conditions that you're placing upon the Kundalini in order to receive that sensation. And so you're not unconditional with it. If you're unconditional with it, there are no conditions. Okay, there is nothing that is providing a parameter. There's nothing that is narrowing it down to a specific focus. When you say unconditional love, then that is without a condition. That means there is no feeling condition on it. There is no sensate condition upon it. It is unconditional, meaning that it will come as it wishes to come. There is no condition upon you receiving it or feeling it or having it in a way that you're familiar with. So the person is getting in their way by having the expectation. It's no longer unconditional with an expectation. Go ahead, Santara.
Thank you very much, Chrism. That makes sense indeed. The second part of the question is, or the comment is, I am also having good feelings in my crown, which are quite hard to express in words. You could say that it is bliss in small amounts. Something like someone is flowing feathers on my nerves in the crown, and it feels sometimes like I am drunk, although I don't now drink. And the person wants to know, I suppose, an affirmation of that in a Kundalini context, Chrism, of the changes that they're feeling in their crown chakra as described.
Well, as described, that's a very effective description. I think having a feather going over the nerve endings on the crown, that's very, very appropriate. Especially, it will often come in waves of that, and the waves will go one direction or another. But that's definitely something that people will feel, and it is blissful. But I found that to be more of a transitory bliss rather than a stationary bliss, meaning that the hair follicles are being stimulated by the frequency of the Kundalini that's coming through. Those hair follicles, each of them are a chakra in and of themselves, and that chakra of the hair follicle is being expanded, which gives you that electric insect feeling that's crawling through your hair, or the electric serpent or electric ants. This is a very energetic process. But to feel that feather just kind of like blowing energy across your crown is a very effective description of that. And it is true. But it is transitory. It is a transitory grace. And but it does come back again and again. I mean, I can lay down on my right side, move my insoles of both feet against each other, and just have that happen to me anytime. Now, with that, was there a further question to that, Santara? Am I missing something here?
Well, there wasn't really, Chrism. I suppose was describing that and wanted to comment around the Kundalini context to it. No, I think you've that covered well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
The next question is about, and I could be pronouncing this incorrectly, so please do correct me, Brahmacharya.
Say again?
Brahmacharya.
Brahmacharya, the celibacy.
Okay. Okay, so it says Brahmacharya is often cited as vital in a Kundalini awakening. I now understand that it is not just about celibacy. If a person is married, it also means fidelity in that relationship. Now, why is Brahmacharya important? It seems to me that it is dependent on a man-made institution of marriage.
Yes, I agree. Celibacy or brahmacharya, however you want to say it, but it all equals celibacy. Celibacy is not required within the Kundalini at all. It's the Shakti, the Sacred Mother, will control your sex life, not some man-made understanding that, oh well, if you don't spill the seed, therefore God will be able to use that seed. God can use the seed whether you spill it or not. Matter of fact, from a male point, you won't even be allowed to have the erection unless the Kundalini lets you have that erection. And sometimes the Kundalini wants you to have sex. It wants you to make love with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your spouse. It wants that interaction, and it will force it on you. You won't have any choice. You will be so imbued with libido that you will not be able to withhold it from yourself. And so brahmacharya is very much celibacy within the Kundalini context is very much a man-made restriction. Now, some aspects of it, of celibacy, is true. Like I said, she will take control. Kundalini, Shakti Mother, Shiva Father, will take control of your sex life and either really, really expand it or greatly contract it. And if she contracts it, well, then you'll be celibate. So you'll have celibacy for a while. And she will take the reproductive fluids, and that will get transferred into the spinal cord. And as that is expanded into the spinal cord, so will that plasma, that Kundalini plus reproductive fluids forms, be distributed among the nerve endings and the chakras that the Kundalini wants that work to be done in. And so it can do that. The main idea with this is to surrender your sex life to the Kundalini. Do not surrender it to the ego. And do not surrender it to a man-made rule that does not necessarily apply to you. Over thousands of years, people have tried to homogenize Kundalini awakening. They've tried to find the similarities that everybody's having, and therefore they try to chart it from. The doggies are calling to me. They're trying to chart it along the lines of replication the same way for each person, and this is not appropriate to the Kundalini at all. The Kundalini sees you as the individual that you are, not as a person inside of a group or a belief system or a yogic system or any kind of a codification of a system that pretends to have information or authority within the Kundalini, when in fact it doesn't. If it's not recognizing the individualistic qualities of each person's karma, therefore it's already making the mistake of assuming that there are laws or rules that a group of people have to come into, not understanding that because everybody's karma is individual, therefore everybody's activation is also individual. And so I don't care if you're a Christian or you're a Hindu or a Buddhist or whatever your belief system is, whatever it's saying about the Kundalini needs to take in consideration the karmic aspects of the Kundalini rather than the expectation that humanity has imbued within that belief system upon the Kundalini. It's an FYI. There you are, Satara. Over.
Thank you. That was passionate. I love that. Okay, the next question. There's 2 questions from the same person. The first part is, how is lucid dreaming and Kundalini related? And the second part is, what is the self?
Okay, what was the first part?
How is lucid dreaming and Kundalini related?
Lucid dreaming and astral projection or out-of-body experiences are basically the same thing, except with the astral projection or out-of-body experience, you get a separation sequence experience that you don't typically get with lucid dreaming. With lucid dreaming, you'll just wake up inside of a dream and begin to control the dream. And it's the same thing with an out-of-body experience, except with the out-of-body experience, you're leaving the dream state by consciously going in to the out-of-body state as you begin to go to sleep. You actually, you'll hear some thunder or a loud thunderclap or something that sounds like a shot, and then all of a sudden you're thrust out of the body, and then you have the ability to travel in basically anywhere that you want to travel. That is what will happen typically with the out-of-body experience. Within the lucid dreaming experience, you can also travel anywhere that you want to go, but you just take out the separation sequence that that you have with the out-of-body experience. Now, their relationship to the Kundalini is these are experiences that a person will have typically before they have the Kundalini. When you're out of body or you're in the lucid dreaming state, you're beginning to understand that you are more than your physical body. Especially, as you're in the astral projection where you have the reconnection coming down, and I've done this many times myself. It's just like you're flying or floating above your body, and you see yourself sleeping below you, say 15 feet below you, and you're slowly coming in for that landing, and you're kind of twisting and turning to be in the same position that you're in the bed there, and so on and so forth. And if you're doing the same thing with the lucid dream, well, then you're beginning to wake up, because I've also done a lot of lucid dreaming, and you begin to hear your environment, the car passing by your open window if you're sleeping in a city, or somebody mowing the lawn, or whatever the early morning activities are around where you're sleeping. You'll begin to hear that within the lucid dreaming state, and that begins to kind of chigger away at your lucid dream to the point where you finally wake up and hopefully write down what you were doing in the lucid state. And so lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, astral projection are all precursive events to Kundalini awakening. So to give you an idea, lucid dreaming, astral projection, out-of-body experiences, these are about getting you into an understanding that the multiverse is far more diverse and far more expansive than your scientifically trained mind has been willing to accept up to this point. And so now your higher self, your Kundalini, however you want to call it, is going to begin to educate you in the actual expansive qualities of the astral and what actually happens when you go to sleep. Everybody is dreaming, whether you're not everybody recalls the dream is what's happening. And much fewer people have control over the dream life. Now, if you start to plant seeds in your conscious life so that you're going to wake up in the middle of your dreams and have that lucid dream, well, then I invite you to do that, because that can be a very, very, very strongly educational aspect to your awakening condition. So, the Kundalini will give you precursive events such as astral projection, out-of-body experiences, which are the same thing, and lucid dreaming, which is the same thing but without the separation sequence. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. And what is the self? Just a little question.
What is the self? The self is what you take a picture of when you're taking a selfie.
Oh, please expand.
The self is your consciousness. That's your conscious personhood. That is your ego self. Self mostly is wrapped around the ego, wrapped around the ego's little finger. The self is your conscious, unenlightened, individualistic quality. A lot of us would call that the ego. Now, and then of course after the Kundalini comes, the expanded self is blended with Sacred Father, Sacred Mother, and Sacred Self. And so, in a way, that self has changed. That self has changed once that comes into fruition. So, self is our conscious self, that which we operate from the most within our day-to-day existence, and that which the Kundalini is helping us change through self-corrective behavioral modifications. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. Next question. Please ask Chrism why he thinks a flesh teacher is important or even essential. And did he have a flesh teacher himself, and who was that teacher?
Well, a flesh teacher can give you expanded real-life education in as rapid a format as the Kundalini wants to give it to you. Because the Kundalini in you goes through him, he directly impacts you. And a flesh teacher really accelerates a lot of what is going on and puts it into words that you can understand, puts it into actions that you can actually follow, rather than spending much of your time trying to figure out what the Kundalini in you wants you to do. The flesh teacher already knows and just goes straight to it. And so it's a super level of streamlining, and it takes away a lot of the mistakes that a person may make, such as falling for entities. If you have me as a flesh teacher, I'm not going to let you get possessed. Without that flesh teacher, there's a very good possibility that you would have a possession take place of you, a discarnate consciousness come in and begin to dominate you, begin to control you, begin to corrupt you. Now, did I have a flesh teacher? I didn't. I didn't have a flesh teacher. And because I didn't have a flesh teacher, I made so many mistakes. And I made so many errors. It took me 12 years of homelessness and suffering to get through my Kundalini awakening, initial Kundalini awakening events. Do you need that? Do you need that? I mean, is that something that you really want? Then then the Kundalini will give it to you. She will not let you have a flesh teacher, and she will force you to make every mistake in the book, and the consequences of those mistakes will also be given for you to feel. I couldn't have a flesh teacher, because if I had a flesh teacher, I wouldn't be able to be as effective as I am right now, because I was allowed to make every mistake in the book. I was allowed to have an extremely diverse awakening and activation event structure within my equation. So I know what it's like to have those entities come in and try to possess you. So I can help a person with that. because Kundalini is going to, it's the next big thing, folks. Everybody's going to be wanting to have Kundalini. It's the next big deal. And because it is that, the Shakti is beginning to expand herself, not only through me, but through Centaura, through Rosemary, through Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, through people such as Brooke and a lot of the administrators that I have on these different groups on Facebook, Magdalene, Helly, some of the people that have had this a little bit longer, can indeed begin to help others who are just coming into it. I think having a flesh teacher is an extremely valuable gift that the Kundalini is giving to people, and they need to step out of their way. People like me, when I was first came to this, I don't need no teacher. Those dang gurus, all they want is they want your car keys, they want your bank account, they want your house. That's all they want, is they just want to take away from you. And this is an attitude that is throughout Europe, throughout the United States, into Australia, South America. You have these people that are calling themselves gurus, taking advantage of other people. Let me ask you this. I mean, would you be willing to learn from a teacher that isn't charging you, that doesn't want anything that you have? And if you're inside of that kind of a teaching, because you're not paying for it, you're not giving anything for it, is it less valuable to you? Because it's coming to you freely, is it less valuable to you? And if that is the case, why is that the case? For some people, they have to pay for it, or it's useless to them. They have to be able to own it, and by paying for it, they're owning it. But if you can't pay for it, can't you still own something that is given freely from my heart to your head? Well, I think you can. I think you can. And I think that with that relationship there, accept the flesh teacher. Accept the teacher that is living. Don't always cast your pearls before dead teachers. You're casting your pearls before chunks of rock or fabricated wood or paintings. If you're going to cast your pearls, cast them in front of something or someone that is alive. When I'm dead, I'm dead. I'm not hanging out, trying to bridge the divide between the living and the dead in order to give you a pearl of wisdom. I've got other work I've got to do. Either getting ready for the next life down here or saying, okay, I've had enough. You get that option with the Kundalini. But look at the flesh teacher. The flesh teacher is live. He or she are living and breathing just like you. He or she has the Kundalini just like you, probably a lot longer than you have. And that person may begin to be able to guide you in ways that a dead teacher or a butterfly may not be able to guide you. But always look to your Kundalini first, whether she agrees with what that living teacher, that flesh teacher is saying to you. And if she agrees with that, that is permission for you to listen and learn from that. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. Okay, next question. This is from the group. Been having back pain, and also I'm very, very tired. I'm thinking about going to a physiotherapist, Would this be helpful?
Well, within a Kundalini context, not so helpful. But within a therapeutic context, if if most people are conditioned in the West to feel that, well, if I go to a medical practitioner, then therefore everything will be better. And that's not necessarily the case, but we psych ourselves out into making that the case. So we basically persuade ourselves that that's going to be the case, and so in a way you can make that the case for yourself. And so if you talk yourself into believing that that therapist is going to give you everything that you need to be better, well, then you might just coerce yourself into having that occur. A physiotherapist won't necessarily, especially if they're just a classically trained physiotherapist, basically trained by science, they won't have much of an effect on the Kundalini. They'll start calling it phantom pain, which is common. With what they don't understand, well, then it becomes something of a phantom, and that phantom pain, they'll give you drugs for that. Okay. With the Kundalini, you do get you can get a sore lower back. You can lose your energy due to the Kundalini. The fact that the person is on the Kundalini Awakened group already should speak volumes to that individual about their Kundalini and about what may be happening to them. But I would look for at least 3 more actual Kundalini symptoms, rather than just having a sore lower back and fatigue. Look for more. Look for what kind of light shows are happening behind the eyes. What kind of temperature variations is a person having? What kind of phenomena? What other phenomena is the person having? Before you can conclusively give it into a Kundalini equation. Ask some questions to yourself. And if you find yourself on a Kundalini group having lower back pain and lack of energy, realize that something else is talking to you about what is happening to you, and gravitate towards the answer being within the placement where you are, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, rather than at the hands of a physiologist. Over.
Just to ask a further question myself, Chrism, in that context, let's assume the person is indeed within an activation. Can you say, why does a person feel backache? Kundalini activation.
The pelvic girdle is being forced to expand. The tailbone is directly connected to the spinal column. And this column goes right through the pelvic girdle and the column exits as the tailbone from the pelvic girdle. And so as the energetic channels within the pelvic girdle are forced to expand, lower back pain can occur, because this also begins to affect the first chakra area, which is really extending from the last 3 vertebrae of the tailbone, to be sure, but that will expand upward into the pelvic girdle and into the to the area of the spine that would correlate with where the legs, shall we say, where the legs hook into the torso. So that expansion will cause pain. That diminution of the veil that separates Kundalini activation from the mundane individual, as that veil is being dissolved, that also allows Kundalini to come through. As the Kundalini comes through, the channels in the pelvic girdles are being expanded. As those channels are being expanded, cells are being forced to give way to a greater energetic force. It is that forcing, that giving way, that actually causes the neurological pain that a person is feeling. Over.
So it's really a really positive thing, isn't it? I mean, if you reframe it in that context, something to be grateful for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, the next question. How can I surrender to Kundalini when I don't know the real innermost depths of my own soul?
Well, you surrender to Kundalini because it's there to teach you about the innermost depths of your own soul. You don't, it's not mutually exclusive. You can surrender to the Kundalini and still learn about the depths of your own soul. You don't have to know the depths of your own soul in order to surrender to the Kundalini. You surrender to the higher divine force. It knows the depths of your soul. It knows that better than you know that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, it's okay. Just when you said that, bing, it's so true. Sorry.
Yeah, it
Kundalini knows steps. Yeah.
It does. It knows. It knows you better than the individual knows themselves. And so the person kind of has a little bit backwards. They need to surrender to the Kundalini in order to learn about themselves, rather than learning about themselves in order to surrender to the Kundalini.
Okay.
Over.
Thank you. Next question. What do you mean when you say Kundalini is divine energy? What does divine mean? Must we have a belief in God?
Divine means divinity. Divinity pertains to those levels of consciousness that are beyond the physical plane, that allow the physical plane to exist for the pursuit of remembering the divine within each individual and each form of creation. For people that have become so stuck into physicality and materialism, a way out of that encasement has been provided. That is through karma. Karma allows us to evolve along a spiritual evolutionary route. That evolution leads to Kundalini. Kundalini leads back to the truth of one's existence, which is from a divine standpoint. Is that clear as mud?
Well, it was tricky. You were doing the click, click, click thing, and I couldn't interrupt you because you didn't take a breath. No, it wasn't. I understood it. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
Okay.
For the click. I was moving my feet.
Yeah, no worries. Okay.
Not
now, where am I? Okay, because I've been jumping backwards and forwards. Oh, yes. Why is meditation important?
Meditation allows a person to converse and to begin to explore the inner realities. It allows a person to understand themselves as much the same way that the person in the previous question asked, the depths of my own soul, learning about the depths of my own soul. Well, the meditation allows you to learn about that. And it allows you to begin that understanding before you have the Kundalini directing you in very specific ways. And so as a person learns to meditate, they're opening themselves up to that inner dialogue, to that inner understanding of where a person is within the ancient code of as above, so below, as within, so without. And so as you are within, so do you create your world outside of you. As you are below, so are you above. As you are above, so are you below. And so as a person begins to understand those dynamics, the meditation will begin to feed that information into the individual, and then the Kundalini itself may waken up due to the meditation and due to the level of refinement that that person is experiencing from the meditation, and will begin to educate the person from the meditational standpoint and begin to show them new lessons, new understandings, new self-corrections that they can have inside of a meditational practice. It's very important. Meditation is very, very important. People need to understand that. You don't just get to skip any of these areas. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, you didn't. I suppose I'm just thinking here of a conversation that happened in the group where somebody had been doing, not very long, following a breath awareness meditation, and then began to wonder, should they follow a different type of meditation to do with inner light meditation or something. Could you say a bit about that, Chrism, and how one would approach meditation in the first place?
The best way to approach meditation is to understand that you have what they call a monkey mind. And the monkey mind is going to be that which gives you all the different thoughts of the day, what was said, what wasn't said, what was intended, what wasn't intended, all the different things, the pictures, the music, the distractions, all of those things. When you start to try to meditate, those things will come into your consciousness and keep you from meditating. And so to start a meditation practice, I would suggest mantra meditation, because this has the ability to still that inner dialogue, that inner conversation, or as we know of as the monkey mind. And so if you say, I am at one with the all that I am, over and over and over, well, that's an interlocking phrase. And by interlocking, I mean you can go, I am at one with the all that I am. And it's that last I am that begins the next phrase. So I am at love with the all that I am at one 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 with the all that I am. Okay. I would suggest that you start from that type of an understanding. And you don't have to make it interlocking. You can just say, I'm at one with the all that I am. I am at one with the all that I am. You can bring that in. Take 21 minutes and say that just for 21 minutes. That would be a 21-minute mantra meditation. And as you focus on the words and the intention of the words, you take your focus off what the monkey mind may be trying to throw your way. And as you practice learning to still the monkey mind, you won't have to do the mantra anymore. You'll just go straight into the stillness. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. How often, I suppose, would you need to persist with that for a week, 2 weeks, 6 months?
I would do it every day for 3 months.
Okay.
Every day for 3 months, for 21 minutes. After those 3 months, you should be able to just dip into the silence.
Okay. Thank you.
What I call dipping into the stream. Dipping into the stream.
Thank you. And this is the last question that I have. Can you please ask Chrism to speak about dual and non-dual happening at the same time, plural and singular, and the rim of the Tao?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the rim of the Tao, actually, even though it's spelled T-A-U, you pronounce it with it like a D-A-U. The rim of the Tao, and you just imagine sitting on a coin, a giant coin, and paint a big Tao symbol on it. The two little dolphins chasing each other. Kundalini person sits astride of the Tao because you are dual and non-dual at the same time. You're in duality. You're in the world of duality. And yet your energetic expression is non-dual. And so it is non-dual and dual at the same time, because Kundalini comes into duality in order to manifest non-duality through you. This is what the non-dualists have a very hard time with, and they just, they have their own little language that they kind of use words to trap you into their ideology. But the fact of the matter is that you're dual and non-dual at the same time. You're dual because you have the body. And you're dual because your human body expresses male attributes and feminine attributes at the same time. You're non-dual because divinity, or kundalini, is singular as an action upon you. And yet, as that action upon you occurs, it is singular and plural at the same time. Clear as mud? Is that as clear as mud, everybody? Do you understand that? C.L. Morgan, Bill Karuba, Atlanta Seeker? I mean, it's a hard concept, I guess, to grasp, but it's very easy once you have the Kundalini to grasp that. You are dual and non-dual at the same time. Does Rosemary have a question? Is that why that question mark is up there?
I'm just seeing that now. Yes, Chrism. That will indicate she does.
I'm going to flip on over to there real quick. Hi, Rosemary.
I don't have a question. I have a request. I just want to remind you that I have information about our seminar, and that's 3.5 months away. So if I could have time before.
Make the announcement.
Well, thank you, because I thought of it just by, it's time to be talking about it, but it was intuition that led me to pick up that Edge magazine. That's 4.5 years ago. Turn the pages, read the article on service by you, see the little notice there about the film. I go to the film. I had heard the word Kundalini once until then. I really didn't know what it was. I was being guided, and I tell people that when I show the film too. So our seminar, the next one, is July 8 and 9, I'm thinking, or 9 and 10, I apologize. But middle of July at one of a beautiful prairie here in Minnesota. And it is about 45 minutes from the cities. And so if you're coming into town, that would be great. And we will be able to help get you to the prairie. If you're a camper, you can bring your camper with you. There are plugins to be there. The energy at that prairie is amazing.
Rosemary,
yes.
My dear. Take it from the top, please.
The Kundalini seminar here in Minnesota is July 9th and 10th, and it is at the prairie near Cannon Falls. That is 45 minutes from the Twin Cities. I am at rosemarygg@usinternet.com or 651-452-3161. And we also I'll be showing the film around the cities. Katie is also showing the film, Kundalini film. That is great to have a partner, and Joey helps also with all this. So we'll be listening for your call, watching for emails, and be delighted to share with you about this seminar.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Rosemary. Thank you for sharing with us on the program today.
Thank you.
And I would like to change the subject a little bit now, and I would like to invite Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez back onto the microphone and to talk about some of the experiences she had in Peru with the ayahuasca. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
The microphone is yours, my dear. Give what Laranja wants you to give.
Okay. Well, let's see. Today I was thinking a little bit about this for some reason, so I guess I'll just talk about that, what came to mind. You had said last week about, you come into the ayahuasca with a certain way that you are or level that you're at or whatever, and then it kind of takes that and expands from there. And I was thinking about that, and I realized that, my whole experience there from the get-go, even before Laranya made her appearance at the second ceremony in a spider way, she had brought me there with visions and dreams, and I had the Amazonian spider come to me in the months in the year prior to bring me there. And from the very first ceremony, I was just surrounded with such love and so much just held in the divine embrace of love. And all 4 ceremonies, I had healings and cleansings and different things, but always around the heart, always around the heart chakra, always pertaining to love. And when she did make her appearance in the second ceremony, I just remember the second one being physically more intense for me and visually more fluorescent and in your face, and just there's like a peak at the beginning where it's very intense. And she came down, just this huge Amazonian jumping spider, which would typically be terrifying to see up close like that, but she was enormous and right in my face, and these bright fluorescent colors. And I never for a second was afraid or felt, I wasn't intimidated. I just remember all I felt was love, just this immense divine love. And from the moment I saw her and locked eyes with her, and I, had been looking at her picture leading up to, because I printed a big 9x11 photo and put it in my meditation room. I just, from her eyes, the love and the way it touched my heart, and she held me and she stroked me and put me in her nest with the rest of, as she said, I'm taking you back and I'm placing you with the other babies. And she put me down in the nest in with all the little ones, and then she and all the adult spiders continued throughout that ceremony to kind of dance around me, and very visual and whatnot, but palpable, just feelings of immense love. And so that's what struck me from all 4 ceremonies, no matter what it was about, because for me they changed. And by the 3rd ceremony, I was getting lessons about death and things, and just heavy soul cleansing and deep crying and heaving from it. Just things like, healing your heart and bringing things up from God knows where, just all kinds of things, but all just in a very loving way. And I'm still now in the processing in the months and however long it's been after, I still just feel very much love and loving. And I think I've always been a really loving person, but this just has kind of given me permission to be even more of what I already was, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so anyway, so the main thing about the ayahuasca, it just touched me very deeply. And it definitely changes you in a good way, that it helps you bring out more of what you can give to humanity and the planet and others, and the reason why you're here.
So you would recommend it for the already Kundalini awakened or activated? You recommend the ayahuasca?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely.
Well, there you have it.
I don't think there was anyone there with us that didn't come away with a really deep level of teaching. I think we all had different, some similar, but we all just were in awe of everything that the divine had to bring and to show us and to bring out of us, and it was just immensely healing.
Agreed. I could not agree more, Elizabeth. And And I want to thank you for coming on board and telling everybody about that. So true. Absolutely true. Ayahuasca gives you the ability to have your consciousness, your ego consciousness, directly interact in a respectful fashion with divinity. And that's one thing that doesn't happen so much for people. And to be able to have direct access with the ego consciousness, with the divine, is a huge gift. I hear the echo there, Elizabeth. I'm going to put you in the blue, my dear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge gift, and I join with Elizabeth, and I think I join also with Centaura, perhaps even with Rosemary, in suggesting that a person that wants to directly affect and to enjoy a new understanding and a new interaction with the ayahuasca, to do the ayahuasca, even though their kundalini is already activated, it just increases the level of communication that a person can have. It just increases it. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Centaura back on here, my dear. Hello, Centaura.
Hello, Chrism.
I am just about out of everything to say, and so I'd like to offer you any last words, my dear.
Oh, wow. Well, I suppose there are so many levels. I mean, this is part of what I've been listening to tonight. There are so many levels that the Kundalini, in so many ways that the Kundalini teaches us, and all at the same time, so many layers. And you know what Elizabeth was speaking about earlier, when she was on earlier in the show, I can really relate to that. She was speaking about how the mundane is mundane and it's not mundane at the same time, how we're doing mundane tasks, we're doing our responsibilities with our family or our friends or even with strangers in queues or whatever, and how within a Kundalini context, I suppose what I've learned as well is that with Kundalini, excuse me, my voice is going, with Kundalini, we radiate the Kundalini in a way, excuse me, I am her eyes, her heart, her hands. I'm in service to others. My service is for her, but it actually is her as well through me, giving to others, her love in action through me. And I loved what you spoke about as well, Chrism, in the way earlier about expansion and contraction, and how that is a thing. I can remember that being very much part of my equation for a while. It was like a huge seesaw for me. It was like I was expanding, and then something would occur and I could feel myself contracting. And, depression, I can remember depression being a contraction, and there are other things like aloneness and other things as well that cause a contraction. And so I can remember, particularly during a particular phase, how in order not, to be so contracted, that through the safeties and in a very conscious way, I can choose to expand by doing the opposite. So like when I'm feeling very contracted in myself, I can remember consciously giving service to others so that I would return into an expansion or an expansive way of being within the Kundalini. And those are the layers that I'm talking about that I have experienced, because in doing that, so many things happened for me at the same time. I was surrendering, I was practicing the safeties, and I learned to move from traction into the expansion. And that then would be where I was within my process. So that really hit home when you were talking about that earlier on. And my last thing is to say I agree so much with what Elizabeth was saying there as well about the ayahuasca. My goodness me, connecting back in again. You know, when you have Kundalini awakened and you take the ayahuasca and you partake in the ceremonies, it is another way, it is another layer, it is another way of becoming aware of what it is that the Kundalini is doing. I mean, you know, one of my mantras is, you know, you own me, Kundalini. It is such a communication in the context of ayahuasca. It is an extra way for the Kundalini to communicate her will for me, and it somehow enables me to in a way that I wouldn't be able to do sometimes, bypass the ego or be aware of what was being given or what I was being taught, because the ayahuasca is a teacher. And it is something that is still going on for me. I mean, is exactly as Elizabeth is experiencing. And I think everybody who has been there, the process continues. And things are different after the ayahuasca, and I am different after the ayahuasca. And I'm very grateful for what it has enabled me. It has opened an aspect of me that wasn't so open before. And so if you're listening to this, I would say, yeah, I think you're talking about maybe going back in February. So if anybody is listening and they're interested in it, I certainly would recommend that it is something that is part of a Kundalini awakening that can be a very, very positive thing. Not always easy. I mean, some of it was quite challenging, but some of it was great fun. And some of it was just beautiful beyond description. So those are my final words, Chrism.
Okay, all right. I'm going to put you in the blue there. Thank you very much, Amelia Centaur. And I'm going to go to Elizabeth. Any last words, Elizabeth?
Gosh, I think Santara just summed it up so well. I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, very good. Put you in the blue. And any last words there, Rosemary?
No, except keep us in mind, and a perfect place to Kundalini to expand in the seminar. If you are new to the whole experience, the perfect place to be too. So,
good enough, my dear. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I want to thank C.L. Morgan for coming here and listening live for the first time. Welcome, C.L. Morgan. And, of course, Phil Karuba, guest 1654, and Alana Seeker, good to see you here. And I want to thank everybody for listening. I'd like to thank people listening on their telephones, on their computers, and in the archives, you future people. And I want to thank you all. And I will end the show the way I started it. Here we go.